Hello, gremlins! I'm coming to you from the physical world today because I wanted to show off this project that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. I didn't film any of the process because I was not thinking ahead. I just got really motivated, but I've been working on most of this project at night or in the back of the car, just places where I couldn't really film. So I wanted to show off these awesome overalls I've created. They started as a pair of black thrifted overalls, just plain, nothing on them. I don't have any before pictures because I didn't think ahead. I bought them a few months ago and kinda had the idea that I would do something to them to update them, just because I apparently can't have any clothing that is just basic and undecorated. But I didn't have a specific plan until recently. I discovered a channel on YouTube that, if you like my content, you might like their content as well. The channel is Radis, and I'll link it in the description. I discovered this channel, which does a lot about DIY, punk culture, upcycling clothing, and I got super motivated. Within the afternoon that I found this channel, I had a sketch drawn up of plans for the overalls, and I started working on them. Also, through the entire process, I ended up watching most of the backlog of this channel. So shout out to Radis for being the motivation to work on this project, to start it, to keep going through this whole process. Yeah, very fun. So I'll show you these in detail now, because I put a lot of details into this. It's taken me a while to make them. Starting out, we have my inspiration sketch. This is a very rough sketch, and I also had a very cool idea. Because there are so many details, I colored in each section as I worked. So when I started work on the overalls, this entire sketch was just the black ink outlines and graphite pencil. Then I colored in each section as I finished it on the actual overalls, so I could see what I still had to do. As you can see, first of all, I never got to coloring the last couple of patches on the back because I finished this last night and didn't get my sketchbook out. There's also one patch here that's not colored. That's because I decided not to make it. I didn't color the background, the black overalls, because I wanted all the detail to remain visible. Almost all my details did translate directly onto the overalls themselves. This patch I ended up putting on the front because I embroidered it, then didn't want the embroidery to be on a place where I couldn't see it. I also accidentally flipped the design when painting the bones, because apparently I cannot understand left and right. This was a bit confusing occasionally when sewing, to figure out which side is this supposed to be on. Anyway, this sketch turned into this! Going piece by piece, starting with the bib of the overall. This is the bib and the front pocket. Behind the pocket, I painted half a rib cage. Then on the rib cage, I've got embroidered moss and embroidered vines. Sewing through this was actually quite difficult, because in places I was sewing through multiple layers of denim fabric and a layer of acrylic paint. I did not use a thimble. I probably should have had a thimble, and my fingers are kind of cut up from the needle, but I think it was absolutely worth it. It looks so good in my opinion. As far as embroidery goes, I'm completely self-taught, using Pinterest images and videos to figure out what I'm doing, and I think I did pretty well. Then, the pocket itself is multiple patches, various shades of green fabric. These two were just some background patches, kind of boring, plain, unpatterned fabric. Then I've got some flannel, some other printed fabric, and this other printed fabric. I bought this secondhand in a pack of various quilt scraps, and I would have done bigger patches with this, except the scraps of fabric were very long but very narrow. So I did a few long, narrow patches, and a couple of patches on other parts of the pants where I sewed two strips of fabric together to make it wider. Then this here is some lace. Almost a year ago, I bought a dress with a layer of black lace, and I've just been slowly cutting that lace off the dress to use in various craft projects. It has patterns of leaves and flowers on it, which I think really fits my vibe, and I like it, so I added that for a bit of visual interest. Then a bit further up, one of the overall straps, which would clip in here, I embroidered more vines on it. Same style as here, but slightly bigger leaves. Then, moving down. I'm gonna stop the camera and start filming again. Sorry I'm not very good at filming things in the physical world, I'm used to screen recording digital drawings. At the top of the leg, just under the pocket, the skeleton continues into the bottom part of the vertebrae and then the pelvis and hip. On this pocket, I have two more patches. As I was talking about earlier, this patch is two strips of fabric sewn together to make a wider patch. Then this is just some plain fabric, and over top of this, I painted, using acrylic paint, a fern. There's a lot of ferns on these pants, and this is one of them. Then on this side, I've got half a pelvis and the top of a femur. I have a couple little turkey tail kind of mushrooms, shelf fungus, growing out of the side of the femur, and I also painted on moss. Other places the moss is embroidered, like on this vertebra, with texture and everything. But here I just decided to paint the moss because this is one of the last steps I did, and at this point I didn't want to try and embroider through more denim and paint, so I just painted the moss on by dabbing different shades of green with a small brush, which is much quicker but doesn't have quite the same look. Moving down, on this leg, this is the patch that in my sketch was originally going to be on the back, but then I really liked it and didn't want it to be on the back where I couldn't see it. This was my first time using an embroidery hoop, and I am never going back. It is so much easier to embroider on an embroidery hoop than it is to try and hold the fabric and not let it get all warped and wrinkled and stuff. This is just a sprig, it's not a specific species of plant. I just looked up Google images of plant sprigs and used one as reference. There's some little clusters of flowers at the top. This isn't the embroidery on this project that I'm most proud of, but it is the first bit of embroidery I did for this project, and I figured out what I was doing a bit more later on. Continuing down, we've got more shelf fungus and more painted on moss on the femur, and another embroidered patch. This one is 2 ferns done on the embroidery hoop. I'm way prouder of this one. This one took a while, but I just did it all in one evening. A few hours of work. As you can see, I kind of ran out of embroidery thread toward the end and had to use a different color. Oops. Also, all the bones on this are in the right place. I sketched out the placement of the bones while I was wearing the overalls, so all the bones do line up, somewhat, to where they are on my body. At least when I'm standing. When I sit, the pant leg rides up so the kneecap is on my thigh, but when I'm standing, all the bones are approximately where they are. I put more painted moss on the kneecap, the patella. I'm going to show off the fact that I know all the scientific names of the major bones. There's also more patches. This patch was the first thing I did to the pants before I did any of the painting, because I painted over top of it. The bones were the second thing I did. So it was this patch, then I painted the bones, then after that I do not remember the order in which I did things. Then over top I put this other patch layering over the bones, partly to cover the fact that I accidentally got paint where I did not want to put paint. The tibia is all wrapped up in another vine, and the fibula behind it is just chilling. Then around the cuff of the pants I painted a bunch of plants. There's a random sprig of something, a fern, a baby fern, and I did the same thing on the back and on the other cuff. So now the other pant leg, starting from the bottom. More plants, and also, it is very hard to see on camera, but I put more of that black lace around the bottom. It's black on black, so it's visible as a texture, but not really as a color difference. But on top of the paint, you can kind of see where the paint texture highlights the lace. I've got another, different species of fern here. Another plant species. Oh, I just accidentally brightened my camera, but that does show off the lace a lot better. Anyway, then there's just a tiny sprig of something with a couple little flowers. Further up, I've got this patch, and I embroidered some mushrooms coming out of the side of the patch. The patch itself is just another piece of fabric that I got in a pack of leftover quilting fabric. It's got a really cool pattern. I wish I had more of it, but I used almost all the fabric I had on this project. I might try to find something similar since it looks really cool. My brightness is just going nuts, okay. Then further up, eventually I'll get a proper camera. Further up, I've got various patches all overlapping. There's another of that same patch that had the mushrooms growing out of it, another of these thin strips of fabric that I sewed together, another patch of flannel, and some plain dark green fabric. Over all these, I painted vines. These wrap around the leg so that on the back of the leg, which I'll be flipping over soon, you can see the other side of these vines. Now to flip it over, I'm going to put my camera down to do this because I am not about to attempt this one-handed. So now starting from the back of the leg, of the same pant leg I was just showing, this is the pant leg that has the lace around the bottom. And on the back, I painted a couple of little mushrooms and another plant. Here's that other side of the patch with the mushrooms going out. This is a patch that goes over the side seams of the pants, so it is visible front and back. Then here we have the vines wrapping around. There's no patches on this side, just vines, which means they kind of stand out a whole lot better against the black denim. Then further up to the back pocket. On this back pocket I did a bunch of embroidery, just using whatever embroidery thread I had, because I did not have enough of one green embroidery thread. Shockingly, that's the embroidery thread I use the most, so I never have enough of it. There's this tiny plant with a little flower, some mushrooms. I ended up using sewing thread for some of these rather than embroidery thread, because I did not have enough shades of brown. There's a fern, another plant, and some trailing vines down the pocket. These ones are on the pocket, and these ones are on the pants behind the pocket. They don't go very far in. Then this pocket just has a cool patterned fabric patch over the whole thing. I sewed this while cutting it so it would be exactly the right size, because I didn't want to bother measuring or making a template or anything. I just hoped for the best, and it worked out really well. Then this is the backstrap section of the overalls. I painted more vertebrae. Originally there were going to be less, then my father, who was a former anatomy teacher, whose opinions I got on my bone placement, said that there would be a lot more and they would be a lot smaller, so I fixed that. So these go all the way up my back, and here's the same strap I was showing you earlier. Then down this leg, these are the last things I was doing before I finished with this project. I'd sewn the patches way earlier, because sewing patches is something you can do very easily in the backseat of a car. Sewing things onto a pair of overalls is a lot less easy to do in a small space that is also moving and occasionally hitting bumps on the road. Even with patches, I pricked myself a lot. Anyway, I sewed a bunch of patches, and then just had them with me to eventually figure out the placement. I mostly used my extra patches to fill out space on the back leg. And then, this was a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was not something that was in my sketch plan, but I had a few fabric leaves from various fake vines that I have that have fallen off the vines, and I thought, I could probably sew those onto these pants, so now I have fake leaves as patches. I don't know how well they'll last, they're already kind of frayed, but while they last they'll be cool, and when they eventually rip away, I'll still have a cool outline of the leaves where I sewed them in place. Anyway, this is just another small strip of fabric from the quilting stash, and then a fake leaf overlaid. another patch of fabric. This one has more of the flannel, and more of the fabric with the cool pattern from the quilt scraps. And then 2 more fake leaves. These were off the same vine. And then down the bottom we've got more miscellaneous plants, another species of fern and a kind of sapling. And that is all the details of these plants I've been working on for 2 or 3 weeks now. So now I'll show you what they look like on. So these are the pants on. As you can see, this is about where my knee is. So that's where the knee bone is. And I measured up so my hip bones are here, rib cage ends here. So all the bones are in the correct place. From the back, this is what it looks like. I don't know if all the vertebrae are in the correct place. That I didn't try and measure. They're just there. But I do think I have the correct amount of vertebrae. So yeah, it's really comfy on. I wasn't entirely sure because there's a lot of like embroidery and threads and stuff, and I do have sensory sensitivities. So I was a bit worried about wearing this and whether or not feeling those bits of embroidery under on the inside of the fabric would be an issue, but it so far hasn't. I haven't worn these a lot because I only finished these yesterday. I have worn them a couple times while they were still in process because I couldn't wait, but yeah, I'm so happy with these. I call them my forest punk pants because this is basically, I haven't covered forest punk yet on the channel, but this is basically what it is, like overgrowth and bones and like mixing of life and death and punky elements and DIY. This was so much fun. I love DIYing my clothes, and this is probably my biggest project yet, and I'm so happy with the result. So I'm going to show you a few photos I've taken of this styled in different ways, and I really hope you enjoyed this different kind of video. I just realized I've been filming this vertical this whole time. Oops. Well, you can deal with that because I don't know how to film these horizontal with my phone. Sorry about the quality of this video. I don't have any proper audio recording software. Most of my audio I record using a pair of bulky headphones with like a microphone on them, but I can't really use those and film from a distance. I don't have any kind of proper mic set or anything that professionals use. My plan for the audio of this is to listen to everything I've said through the camera, write it all down in a transcript, and then record voiceover on top of exactly where I've said everything, because I don't trust, there's so much background noise going on, so I'm not just going to use the raw audio, but I am making this needlessly complicated for myself because I don't know what I'm doing. But I hope you enjoyed this more chaotic type of video. I really enjoyed making these, I really enjoyed showing them off. I don't have anything like this on my Etsy store because this took me absolutely hours and I would not know how to produce this for sale. But if you do like, I don't know, DIY, thrifted, upcycled, hand-painted clothing, I do have an Etsy store. Check it out. I also sell digital versions of some of the artwork I do on this channel. I don't know how to sign this off exactly. I've never talked directly to a camera before for a video like this. I hope you enjoyed. This is a lot more unfiltered me. I am not working off a script. I will have a script when I'm voiceovering all of this to fix the audio. Hope you enjoyed. Check out my other content, which is a bit different to this, but, you know, you might still enjoy it. Until next time, bye!